When it comes to growing a business, it's a never-ending battle between these two things. On the one hand, you have to find a way to fulfill your service or to deliver your product to your customers. Because if you don't, or if the experience is otherwise bad, you're not going to be able to grow any further. On the other hand, another problem that a business will face when it's trying to grow is actually getting people in the door. It's getting people to buy that product that you can then fulfill. Because if you don't have enough people coming in the door, who cares about how many products or services you can fulfill? And when you boil these two bottlenecks down to their simplest form, it really just becomes a battle between supply and demand. Supply being your capacity to fulfill demand, and demand being the amount of supply that your customers want. And a business is always facing at least one of these two bottlenecks. You either have too much supply and not enough demand, or you have too much demand and not enough supply to meet that demand. As an example, I'm currently running a carpet and steam cleaning business in Houston, Texas. I bought it towards the beginning of the year. And we currently are in the stage of trying to get more demand because we have some open capacity to fulfill our services. So if we were to get some more demand, we should be able to serve that demand. So right now I'm focusing a lot of my effort on the business towards building out a sales team. And that sales team could be used to drive more demand to then fill out our existing capacity. But at a certain point, we're going to have too much demand, and then we're going to have to expand our ability to fulfill. And there we get to the supply bottleneck, and we'll have too much demand to deal with. In which case, I'll probably turn a lot of my attention towards building out the service team, adding more technicians, more trucks, more equipment, whatever it is to actually build out more supply to fulfill the extra demand that we would have coming in. And this cycle would continue. This isn't to say that I would wholly ignore one side or the other. You're always trying to balance supply and demand as a business. It's just that the focus will tend to be towards one because one will probably be your primary bottleneck at any given time. And especially when it comes to the demand or selling side of this, you really have to make sure that you still have a decent product that when people come into the door, when you bring them in through marketing, through referrals, through whatever means, you want them to have a good experience because that's going to keep driving the ship forward. If you're bringing in a bunch of people but your service is terrible, then it doesn't matter how much demand you can drive in the short term. It's really about making sure that your customers are happy in the long term, and that's going to be what really propels that demand side of things. So in that way, the fulfillment or supply side of this equation is a primary driver of your ultimate demand, because if you can't provide a good product, or if you're overwhelmed and the experience is bad for customers, you're really going to lose a lot of that demand very quickly. So again, you can't just ignore one for the other, even if one of them seems to be a bigger problem in the short term. They both are closely related and matter a lot for the long term. And business in general really is all about pushing limits and getting close to breaking things, but ideally not actually breaking them, in that if your systems are pushed to their limits, it's going to force you to adapt so that you can take on more capacity, take on more demand, whatever it is. It's a constant adjusting game, and that really is the challenge of it. And that's why a business that's operating with a couple $100,000 in revenue and services fulfilled is going to behave a lot differently than a business that's doing tens of millions of dollars, or at least the different focuses in each setting are going to be very different. Just think about how difficult it would be to fulfill $100,000 of a particular service versus $10 million of that same service. You're going to need a lot more systems and things in place to make sure that that can run smoothly, and you're definitely going to need a much larger team at that point. And maybe what it really comes down to is making sure that the business is constantly improving its product or service as it grows and as more demand comes in. And like I said, they're related. So if your product is getting better, the demand for that product should be going up in turn. You just have to make sure you get the word out in some way, or ideally your existing customers can help you get the word out. But each step along the way, you'll get better and better at fulfilling that thing, and your customers should appreciate it. And your competitors probably won't appreciate it, but such is the business game. Anyways, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.